you today? So, we are still doing, for this stream at least, the trial exhibit from the complaint that was filed in 2020, but the trial happened in 2023. But then some decisions have been coming out this year, 2024. And so we've been going over the 2023 trial exhibit of the 2020 case against Google, the search monopoly case in Judge Mehta's court, Mehta. There's also a different monopoly case against Google right now in Judge Brinkema's court, Brinkema. And that is in regards to ad technology. I believe that complaint was filed 2023, and that the court proceedings and stuff have been happening around nowish. I said around now, not out. What the fuck? The captioner put that wrong. Okay, anyway, yeah, and I've been hammering down the differences in these cases like every time because with the news coverage, I feel like, they'll be lumping it all together. And so I've been pretty confused, or maybe I did in my coverage. But either way, with the way I found out about it in the news, I was getting confused as to if there was one case, if there was two cases, and as you know what I mean, like, so what that was. And so in my first, I forgot, but my first handful of live streams on this, I wasn't sure about that. And so then it was later in my coverage that I was like, okay, no, there are definitely two cases here. And so I've just been trying to hammer down and make sure that that is clear ever since. So anybody who's following along can make sure that, okay, they know and process that. And for anybody who comes into one of these live streams the first time you're finding out about all of this, that way if they want to go find the documentation, if a link doesn't work or something in the description of the video, then it'll be easier, make sure you're on top of what you're going to go look for if you want to know, go find something, I don't know, but whatever. So just for clarity, I've been kind of repeating on that and just harping down on that. And so yeah, so we have gone over, I believe, 38 trial exhibits. Last time we got through 8. And so yeah, we went through 8 last time. That's 38 total. So we're going to keep going through the trial exhibit. So I'm going to roll my intro. We'll do our recap. We'll see how many we can get through. And then we'll recap all of that at the end, like we've been doing. I feel like that's a pretty good flow. Yeah, and then I feel like I'm going to knock on wood real quick. Is this fake wood count? Whatever. Knocking on wood. I might be wrong, but I think I was clicking through the presentations and the exhibits and stuff that are still left. And from what I saw, what I clicked on, and granted, there's a lot to go through still, but what I was clicking through, none of that looked like it was several hundred pages again. So I think we are done, hopefully, fingers crossed that I'm not wrong on that, with the 100-page presentations, hopefully. So I'm hoping that we can get through everything a bit more quicker. But who knows? Maybe I just jinxed my stuff on that. But maybe that's right from what I saw. Who knows? But yeah, I'm hoping we'll be able to actually wrap this up soon. But yeah, okay, so here we go. Hi, my name is Alexis, also known as Lexi or Deaf Child. I was born deaf, hard of hearing. I began doing business as Deaf Child 2013, marketing 2011, sales 2009. I've earned 50 plus certifications in marketing and sales. My Bachelor of Science from Loyola University, New Orleans, with a music industry studies major and a business administration minor. Deafness runs in my family genetically. Speech is not fully accessible to me. Anyway, I'm here to bitch about whatever the fuck is on my mind. So here we go. Visit my site at noladeafchild.com. Okay, so we've been going through the trial exhibits. So we've gone through 30 of them so far. The last live stream, we got through 8. We got through a document that further explained a bit about the way that the ad auction was working. However, in this documentation, in my opinion, they were basically admitting that they were trying to make it so that advertisers were paying the most possible. And they were basically saying that they needed to word that in a way that didn't piss advertisers off, in my opinion. Basically, that's my interpretation of it. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so I could be wrong. But yeah, so that was the one document we went through called the Google document on the randomization we can explain to advertisers from 2018. And then this next exhibit is an email. It's listed on the trial exhibits as 2017, but when you go look at the trial exhibit, it says 2007. And when you look at the conversation as it relates to revenue share agreements and Apple and the timeline of that, it makes sense for it to have been taken place in 2007 because by 2017, the things that they were talking about already happened. And in these emails, it was discussed as if they were trying to make it happen still. So I think that's a typo and that this should be 2007. But I don't know if I said this. I'm talking about the email from Joan Brady of Google to Sergey Brin of Google and others about the Apple update. And so, yeah, and they'd already had their agreement with Apple by 2017. So that's why I believe it's related to 2007. And that's an email issue there. And in here, the email, the key takeaway from that for me was literally they were saying, like, if they don't do what we want with the default settings, then they don't get revenue. And if they do, then they'll get revenue. Is literally what they were fucking saying, in my opinion, basically, in that email chain. And then after that, we looked at a Google presentation, and it was just showing the search entry points on Android. And I don't know for sure, and this is from 2016, and I don't know for sure the context in which it was presented in the case, but I'm sure it came about in the arguments because Google, I mean, the government was arguing that Google was monopolizing through Android based on the default settings and the exclusivity that they were locked into with the search entry points on their Android devices, essentially. Um, and so I feel like, that's the search entry points on Android phone there, that could be used for the government's argument on that. And then on the other side, Google was trying to basically argue we weren't technically exclusive because they could have just not done the deal with us. You know what I'm saying? And so that was their kind of counter argument, and I believe that also came out later. So I'll tell you that in a minute. But after that, we looked at the email from Mike Rozak of Google to Carlos Kirshner of Google, and that was regarding the maps on Apple. And they were literally talking about how they wanted to make sure that they were getting people who, because so Apple came out with their own version of Maps. So in my opinion, this document was related to um, user retention and getting users from Apple to Google Maps and how they can work with that type thing. In my opinion, rough summary. And then after that, we were looking at this Baja presentation of the Baja financial model and a Microsoft presentation. It was an email from Microsoft to Apple. And in this email, they were basically talking about how, um, they would do business together if it weren't for the current agreements that they were in now. They were kind of talking about how much more money they could be making in business together, in my opinion, basically, from these documents. And then after that, there was a Google presentation on the strategic value of the default homepage to Google. And that really did show like the power of the defaults as we've been discussing as it relates to monopolies because people rarely change the default setting. And so this presentation was discussing how that default setting got them more money, in my opinion. And then we were looking at this email from Peter Chang of Google to Jim Kolotouros of Google regarding the ACHP offsite agenda with the attached Google presentation of the Android overview. And in my opinion, I don't remember looking into what the ACHP stands for. Let me look that up real quick. Well, this says Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. That can't be right. Is that right? Oh, this is related to indigenous issues. That's definitely not all right. No. Yeah. So I don't know what the ACHP means in reference to this, but fucking this document is where I was telling you guys where Google was basically saying, well, it's not exclusive if no one's forcing them to sign with us kind of argument in a nutshell. That was basically, in my opinion, what I got out of this email chain. You know what I'm saying? Um, and then I think that's the last thing we read. I don't think we did this. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, that was it. So we went over those 8 things. That's what we covered so far. I can't process, but yeah. So now let's see what else we can get through here. Um, and so we are on exhibit number UPX0126. This is an email from Jeff Shardell of Google to Sundar Pichai of Google regarding an Apple EMG deal review. And this is from June 4th, 2007, with an attached Google presentation of Apple Inc. Search Partnership from June 4th, 2007. And this was uploaded October 30th, 2023. So, this document is a message, and it seems to be from Jeff Shardell. We have a redacted email right here. It is to Sundar Pichai. We also have another redacted email here. We've got Anne Strand, redacted email, of course, and Karen Say, redacted email, of course. All of these people are of Google. And oh yeah, Anne Strand and Karen Say are CC'd, but the email is from Jeff Shardell to Sundar Pichai. I don't think I'm saying the names right. I apologize. And Jeff is, I don't know who the fuck he is, to be honest, but Sundar is the CEO, I'm pretty sure. And this is from June 4th, 2007. Oh my god, at 2:07 a.m.? Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway, so this right here shows evidence of a toxic work environment. I'm just kidding, but am I? So, it says Sundar, or and. Please find attached my prezzo. I like Prezi better. My prezzo for deal review tomorrow. Sundar, as we discussed on Friday, do you have any additional supporting info we can provide around browser revenue trends? For example, people shifting away from toolbar searches and towards start page, etc. Let's discuss this evening when you have a moment. Anne or Karen, please look at this, especially the last slide where I estimate revenue impact of my proposed deal structure. Looking for a sanity check here. Thanks, Jeff. And then here it's got a presentation. We got Apple Inc. Search Partnership, Jeff Shardell, June 4th, 2007. And yes, I think I will keep pointing this out. Every time I see something that like this where it says confidential for internal use only, and here I am showing this on my live stream, it makes me a little giddy. It really does. I'm like, yeah, bitch, we're doing that. Anyway. And then it reminds me, one time in middle school, my mom took a picture of me in the doctor's office because there was a sign behind me, and it says, "Do not leave kids unattended," in the doctor's room. And so my mom took a picture of like me thumbs up with the sign behind me, just thinking it was kind of funny because it's like an unattended kid kind of thing. And this was like when I was in like middle school, at the pediatrician, and fucking yeah. So that's how I feel when I'm like confidential for internal use only. Let's put this on the big screen. But anyway, okay. So the next slide says Apple Partnership Overview. And we have a description here. It says produces and markets PCs and other peripherals to design-conscious consumers. Paid search partnership in place since January 2005 for searches stemming from the Apple Safari browser. Size, 2006 revenue, $19.3 billion. 2006 net income, $2 billion. Market cap, $104.8 billion. Market presence, 2.3% PC market share of new PC sales. 4.59% browser market share. What the fuck am I saying? Browser market share. Yeah. And then it says Apple revenue trends since deal inception. And it shows the net revenue for 2005, 59.9 million, 2006, 143.6 million, and 2007 year to date, 70.6 million. So total, this is $274.1 million. It says payments to Apple, 2005, 29.9 million, 2006, 71.8 million, and 2007 year to date, 35.3 million. Total 137.1 million. So this is their Apple partnership. So, and the search partnership, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming or thinking that potentially this is the revenue trends, specifically as it relates to the deal between Google search and Apple. What is the net revenue they generated together, and then how much did they share with Apple? I think those are the numbers we are getting, and I believe this has increased, in my opinion, potentially, based on what we've seen with the case. But I could be wrong, but that's just what I'm assuming. So then it shows the deal overview. Current deal terms. Google default an exclusive search provider in Safari browser. 50% net revenue share after 10% deductions for queries stemming from the Apple browser Chrome. Hold on. So wait a minute. So in previous documentation, in my opinion, I believe, I forget which one, but in one of the documents we were looking at last time, I think, Google was basically trying to argue that they didn't lock anybody into an exclusive agreement, in my opinion, is what I believe they basically said. But why do we now have Google documentation between Jeff Shardell of Google and Sundar Pichai of Google, where they're literally discussing how Google default, and they say, and exclusive. So they're literally saying that they do have exclusive agreements. Is that not a bit wishy-washy, in my opinion? But I don't know. It's just a question. I'm just questioning it again. Who am I? I'm just a silly little girl. Maybe I don't know shit. But anyway, current deal terms. Google default an exclusive search provider in Safari browser. 50% net revenue share after 10% deductions for queries stemming from the Apple browser Chrome. Term through January 2008. What Apple wants. Launching Safari for PCs and wants current deal terms to apply to this new OS. Google to be one of two possible choices for search provider, not the default. The user required to choose search provider prior to using the browser. Apple wants current deal terms to extend to Safari browser for PC OS. The contract open regarding the OS, but requires Google to be the default search provider to qualify for revenue share. Key issues. Apple uncooperative vis-a-vis Google's efforts on Chrome utilizing their open source platform. Strategic considerations with respect to supporting PC version of Safari vis-a-vis Chrome launch plans. Am I fucking saying that right? I have no clue. Revenue share seems rich for non-default and non-exclusive deals. So yeah, they're and they already had said in a previous email that we read last time, they literally told fucking Apple, like, if you don't give us exclusivity, you don't get the money, bitch. They didn't say it like that. That was basically my interpretation of the fucking email they sent. You know what I'm saying? So, and then it says impact if existing deal terms. Likely scenario. Assume new browser has same Chrome, what the fuck? Has the same Chrome. I'm like combining Google and Chrome and saying Chrome instead of Chrome. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. So, okay. Take it from the top. Assume new browser has same Chrome query growth. Say that 3 times fast. Chrome query growth. God damn. As Firefox had in its first year. Use current Firefox worldwide. Revenue per 1,000 impressions from Chrome searches. Apply to revenue share via Safari. 45% of gross. Annual revenue share payment to Apple would be $90 million. So, they're saying, impact of existing deal terms. They're assuming here. They're assuming if they go to Firefox and they already have an agreement with Firefox to be their search engine or whatever, or so if they went with Firefox and they left them, then they would still then they would apply then they would pay less in revenue share to Apple, but there would still be some of that agreement applying, but it would give Apple more leeway to do what they want, I think. But then they're saying the aggressive scenario here, it says assume new browser comes out the gate with the same worldwide market share as Firefox. Oh, okay, no, they're saying the same growth as. They're not saying that they're going to use it, but they're saying if the new browser, the Safari browser, um, had the same growth as Firefox. Okay, now I see. Then they're using what they pay Firefox um, to estimate what they would have to pay Safari based on their current agreement. That's what's happening, I think. And so they're saying that's what's likely going to happen. But what would happen in an aggressive scenario would be if they came out, and that's if they came out as a baby but were growing well. But if they came out with rapid growth, then fucking at that point they're saying they would use Firefox worldwide revenue per thousand impressions from Chrome searches to apply the revenue share we give Safari, 45% of gross, with the annual revenue share to payment would increase to 205 million. So they're saying, depending on which one, the revenue agreement could more than double, depending on what could happen here. And then they're presenting with sales recommendations and asks. So recommendations or asks. Option 1, Google is not default, no revenue share to Apple, like what we were saying before. Option 2, Google is the default. Then if Google is the default search provider, we share 10 to 20% of net revenue after 10% operating costs. Cap revenue to Apple at 50 million year 1 and 100 million year 2. Apple must agree to support Google in Chrome development. In payment for the support, we share with Apple 2 to 5% net revenue after 10% operational costs for Chrome search results. Then it shows rationale, issues, and risks. And it says option 1, why share revenue with Apple when they haven't done anything to quote unquote earn it? If they want to offer the user choice, they would likely still include Google as a search option. Option 2, provide them with lower revenue share than Mac OS deal. Cap revenue to avoid excessive payments since this revenue may be cannibalized from existing Google revenue. Revenue share with Chrome revenue provides them with an incentive to support Google. I see what they're saying. So they would cap revenue to avoid excessive payments because if they, because people could be, to account for the number of people that might have already been using Google regardless. I think maybe. Okay. And then this last slide here says possible impact of proposed deal terms. So the year 1 payment to Apple, assume FF year 1 ramp. I don't know what the fuck they mean by FF here. 18 million to 36 million. And then it says year 2 payment to Apple, assume 20% market share, 41 million to 82 million. Revenue payments from Chrome are unknown at this time. What the fuck does FF mean? Finance forward? Full who knows? Alright, fulfillment? Fucking who gives a shit? I don't know. Assume fulfillment of year 1 ramp, like in growth, ramp up. Who knows? So it looks like this is where they were basically laying out, like, we're going to make a lot of money from these bitches. We want we want that money, and we'll pay them to get that money. And so here's the option, you know what I mean, in relation to that. And they're basically saying, but because we might get the searches anyway, even if Apple fucking doesn't use them as a default, then fuck it. Why would we, who gives a shit if we don't make this deal? Is basically what they were basically like kind of going at with this presentation, in my opinion. But I think it's interesting where they go, why share revenue with Apple when they haven't done anything to earn it? In my opinion, it's like, so you then why would you devalue the search default placement that way? In my opinion, that's the value of it. Like what? So I don't really feel like that one made sense, but whatever. Okay. So moving on, let's see if we can get through some more stuff here. Where was I? We're going to be at exhibit number UPX0128. This is going to be an email from Tom Oliveri of Google to Sundar Pichai of Google, and it's forwarded about a Nexus launcher without QSB, which stands for Quick Search Box. Don't know what the fuck they mean by Nexus launcher, but let's find out. This seems to be from August 26, 2016. It's dated November 15th, 2023 for the upload date here. And this says, and it's from Tom to Sundar, like we just said, they're both at Google. Okay, and it says, updated leads agenda will be. Leads, August 29th, 10 to 1. Major topics, top of mind, Sundar. Duo or Allo update, Nick. Hardware update, Rick. Maya topics, Nexus, quick search bar, Hiroshi, Philipp, JG. Area 120, Don, presentation. Let me know if you want to see any tweaks, T. And so again, the subject of here is the Nexus launcher without the quick search bar, QSB. I don't know what they mean by Nexus launcher though. Let's go with that. Okay. It's a custom cross-platform user interface for installing and launching. Well, this one is related to Lego Universe, but I guess it could be installing and launching shit online. Who knows? Okay. So, and then this forwarded email was from Tom Oliveri to Philipp Schindler, and it's redacted, and CC'd, it's got Hiroshi Lockheimer, John Gianandrea, and Brian Rakowski, as well as Sundar Pichai, and it says, we'll flag for discussion on the agenda, T. And so that's what was sent before this, earlier that day in the morning, so this was sent in the evening, the first email that we read, about the agenda. And then earlier in the morning, it says we'll flag for the discussion on the agenda T, and then that was the agenda we just read. And what was said before that was, Tom, to make sure we don't forget to have a few minutes between us either at or around Google Leads on Monday. And before that, someone else had said, rookie mistake, really adding Brian. Someone else had said, Brokowski too, I guess that's Brian. Before that, someone had said the Android calendar says MR1 rolls out December 5th. So if we make all the milestones in the AB plan, we'll have data by the end of the year from the search analyst teams. Not ideal, but it's where we are on this. And an AB test is just when you test one item at a time, when you have a control and a test, and you test one thing at a time. Another type of testing is multivariate testing, where you can potentially be testing multiple variables at a time. And A/B test just allows you to see how one element influences conversion rates. So yeah, and then before that, Sundar had said, we should always do these things with the ability to measure. Can I get a firm timeline and schedule for the A/B testing framework for this? Okay. You know what? I don't think I'm saying who had to read these before. So, our first email was from Tom to Sundar. Then, and that was with the agenda, on the leads agenda. And then after that, Tom to Philipp with Hiroshi, John, and Brian and Sundar CC'd had said flagging for discussion on agenda. Before that, Philipp had said to Tom to make sure we don't forget to have a few minutes between us either at or around Google Leads on Monday. Before that, Hiroshi had written rookie mistake really adding Brian, and Hiroshi had written Prokowski too. And before that, it was John Gianandrea that had said what I just read about the MRI1 Android calendar rollout regarding A/B plans and getting data by the end of the year from the search analyst teams. Not ideal, but it's where we are. Okay, and then before that, Sundar Pichai, the CEO, had said, we should always do these things with the ability to measure. Can I get a firm timeline and schedule for the A/B testing framework for this? And before that, Hiroshi had said, SG, it'll have been a week at this point. At that point, it will be interesting to see how your experience evolves by then. Before that, Philipp Schindler had said, I have made my points and still think they are valid. Happy to continue the discussion at one point in person, maybe around next Leads. Thanks, Philipp. Before that, Hiroshi had said, I agree. One thing to keep in mind, however, the number of people who are assigned into Google in Korea is very low. Well, let me be more precise. The number of Samsung product decision makers who are assigned into Google are super low because, one, they use their browser, and two, they access Naver. I can't speak. And more importantly, three, our breadth of knowledge or integrations with local service providers is very low. So there's really not much happening in Korea. Jeff Bortz and I saw this firsthand a couple of years ago in Suwon. On August 22nd, 2016, John Gianandrea had written, Samsung has flipped forward at -1. I believe we can do a much better job. That is not what NowStream is today, JG. And then before that, Hiroshi had said, do you know how we ended up with the current widget? It was what we liked back in 2008 or 2009. There is data, by the way. We've done user experience research. We're basically doing number 2 with these devices. Your point regarding number 3, see my point about number 5. By the way, Samsung absolutely does not want -1. That's a different discussion entirely. My recommendation, please give it a few days of use. See how you felt at the end of the week and let's chat. Thanks, Hiroshi. So I need context on this other thing to process this, but okay, and before that, Philipp Schindler had said, sorry to be so blunt, but I don't think number 1 has any data to support it. Number 2 could be negotiated if we had a testing framework and data showing revenue and user impact of different types or placements of quick search boxes and widgets. Number 3 ignores the potential collateral damage from operating equipment manufacturers asking for this at scale. Number 4 is done backwards in my honest opinion. On number 5, you might still be lucky that they don't want to give up -1 anyway, but it will definitely increase their drive to ask even more aggressively for quick search box changes. My whole point is that we shouldn't play around with these things based on what we like, quote unquote. Okay. And then before that, Hiroshi had said, sorry I missed your IM, Philipp. I was headed to SFO, headed to EWR to meet with Verizon for our QBR. I honestly don't know what the fuck these acronyms mean, and I'm not even looking it up. But IM, is that instant messaging? Is that even a thing anymore? Okay, and then it said, here's the logic. 1. Users generally are tired, visually, of our widget. It's in the middle of the screen, obscures your family picture, etc. 2. Operating equipment manufacturers are very tired, visually, of our widget because of 1, and also because they feel like they don't get to differentiate. 3. Now that we think like an operating equipment manufacturer, the Nexus team, 2, really resonates. 4. We're going to experiment with the Nexus population, about 2 million over a year. 5. In terms of operating equipment manufacturer reaction, we've already briefed Samsung that we're going to be doing this experiment on Nexus and that we'll be updating them on usage or potential revenue share impact. When I first started using the new widget, I had a slight heart attack too. but I have to say I really like it visually. I am back to doing searches from it, and I do find myself pulling to -1 more. Pulling to -1. Oh, I keep saying -1, but I think they mean the -1 page on the fucking thing. And I keep forgetting that's what that's called or whatever. Like, if you swipe on your phone and it automatically takes you like to the Google thing, they call that the -1 page, but I didn't know the fuck that was called that, but whatever, or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, okay. And here's what I'm talking about. The -1 page on your phone. Well, I guess this is it's not showing me. Well, I tried to. Well, that's what they call it. And we saw that earlier in previous documentation. I feel gaslit. Google is gaslighting me. Anyway. So, and then it says, did I read this? Oh, no. But number 5, in terms of operating equipment manufacturing, we've already briefed Samsung. Oh, yeah, you know what? I think I did read this. We've already briefed Samsung that we're going to be doing this experiment on Nexus, and that will be updating them on usage by potential revenue share impact. When I first started using the new widget, I had a slight heart attack too. Okay, I read this. But I have to say I really like it visually. I'm back to doing searches from it, and I do find myself pulling to -1 more. I don't know what our stats say about Google dog food usage, although Tamara warns me that that's really not a useful population to look at. Huh. I don't know what they mean by that, but okay. And before that, John Gianandrea had said, there is a plan, mostly led by Tamar, to do an A/B experiment later after lunch. Not clear yet which market this will run in. Even less clear what we should do if this experiment shows significant search loss. I am excited to see if the new user experience drives people to -1, since that is a strategic priority for search. But as Hiroshi knows, I do worry about operating equipment manufacturers' reaction to our Nexus marketing of this user experience. And then before that, Philipp had said, so I had a mild heart attack today when I saw the new Nexus launcher without the quick search box. I fully understand the urge to innovate, but taking such a potentially high revenue impact decision, which A, despite the low Nexus volume carries the risk of other operating equipment manufacturers asking for a similar placement over time, and B, cannot really be supported by robust testing data regarding query impact. As far as I know, the frameworks aren't in place yet. I have been asking for this for a long time. Feels audacious to give it a positive spin. I already got a bit of background from JG, but as I wasn't involved in, it would be nice if I could get a few more details on the logic here. I also struggle to understand why we don't build out a testing framework first. Again, not a new ask, then test on small percentages, then implement the winner, then repeat. Thanks. So yeah, basically what I'm getting from this though is they're discussing why the search widget and the default placement and that exclusivity is so important to their revenue, in my opinion. That's kind of what I get from this and why they think it's so important to make sure that they have locked in. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion. And so this is from 2016. Um, and then next up, let's do another. Let's see, where are we? We have exhibit number UPX0129. This is the Google presentation, MADA and RSA, Android commercial agreement from August 2018. Not 18, this says 2019. I don't even know why I said 18. From August 2019. It was uploaded October 30th, 2023. And I think the MADA is like Mobile Application Distribution Agreement or something like that. And RSA stands for Revenue Share Agreement. And it's like the agreements they lock Android into in order to split the revenue, but also maintain and get that search default and exclusivity, in my opinion. So we have this presentation here on MADA and RSA, Android Commercial Agreements, dated August 2019. I love how it says attorney-client privileged right here. I'm not an attorney, but I do feel privileged to check this shit out anyway. So, okay. So MADA stands for Mobile Application Distribution Agreement, and RSA stands for Revenue Share why can't I speak? Search Revenue Share Agreement. And these are Android core commercial agreements. So the MADA secures a baseline distribution of our apps on Android, gives us a vehicle to drive consistency of experience, and ensures regular security updates. The RSA reinforces MADA's distribution with additional protections for our revenue generating services, provides a mechanism to help fund the ecosystem. So here, they admit that the RSA and the MADA are the mechanisms that help them fund the ecosystem because they said that the RSA reinforces the MADA. And moving on, we have here MADA overview. Mobile, and this is again mobile application distribution agreement. So it secures a baseline distribution of the apps on Android, gives a vehicle to drive consistency of experience, and allows to define a baseline security level. So coverage, 2.3 billion activities, about 1 billion activations per year. Wait, did I say activities? It's 2.3 billion actives. I think they mean active users. And then it says we give Play Store plus 10 Google apps, app ecosystem, security and malware scanning. We get Play plus 10 apps preloaded. I love how that's a give and get. Search widget plus assistant gestures and hot word, security updates. And then it says MADA versus version 2019. Why am I saying MADA? It's MADA. Update rolling out now. About a 2-year contract. And then it shows Google Play plus preloaded apps with icons. So the non-deletable apps are Google Search, Google Chrome, YouTube, Gmail, and Maps. The deletable apps are the Photos, Drive, this movie player thing one, I don't know, this other video thing, this other thing, I don't know, and YouTube, this other version of YouTube Studio. So yeah, and then it says placement, services, and integrations. And I don't even know what the fuck these logos are. And then it talks about policies. And it adds a preload policy as well as a build expiration. And then it says RSA overview. So RSAs are Search Revenue Share Agreement. And this reinforces MADA's distribution with additional protections for our revenue generating services. This provides a mechanism to help fund the ecosystem. So coverage, redacted active users and redacted activations per year. They give search revenue share on Android, and they get out-of-the-box search defaults and exclusivity, and out-of-the-box assistant gesture, hot word, and home screen exclusivity. So this right here is extremely interesting because in my opinion, previously, Google has tried to argue that their agreements didn't lock anyone into exclusivity because people could just not do the agreement with them. But here, their own internal documentation kind of shows, no, they already knew that that was to lock them into exclusivity. They're saying this right here in the overview that that was the intent of it, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and then it shows this next presentation. It says RSA evolution into RSA 3.0. 2 key goals governed our update. So the RSA 2.0 refers to their Search Revenue Share Agreement 2016 version. Their RSA 3.0 establishes their 2019 version. And it says where we are today. Search and assistant protection secured on redacted of Android devices. Additional placement for key apps secured on redacted of Android devices. No protections for Play. Key goals. 1. Platform-wide protections for key access points not covered by MADA, such as browsers and assistant. 2. Stronger alignment with operating equipment manufacturers on key apps and ecosystem services, Play apps, user interface. So yeah, and it shows here they're basically saying their goal is to make sure that Android is further locked into their revenue search agreement by making sure the voice search is protected and that with the in relation to the assistant here, and that they get the priority on the browser, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Um, let's see here. Fucking next up, we are going to check out another exhibit. Um, before we do, you know what? Fuck it. Nah, let's do it. Okay, next up, we're going to check out another exhibit. So this is exhibit number UPX0131, and this is a Google presentation, MSFT on Android scenarios, December 2017, and this was uploaded November 27, 2023. And I know I'm going on to this other Google presentation, but going back to exhibit number UPX0129 here real quick on this MADA RSA Android commercial agreement, I'm just realizing this was from August 2019. They're talking about their goals in the 2019 agreement. I wonder if that agreement already happened or was in the works at that point of that presentation. I don't know. I'm just curious. Okay, back onto this exhibit we're doing now, Google presentation, MSFT on Android scenarios. And I don't know, but I'm wondering if MSFT is Microsoft. Yeah, it's Microsoft. It's the NASDAQ stock symbol for them. Okay. So, we're looking at the Google MSFT on Android scenarios. And this is partly redacted, but it's an overview from December 2017, and this does seem to have been a draft. I love how they're labeling this attorney-client privileged and confidential right here. And I wonder if this is something that would actually be considered attorney-client privilege theoretically in business, or if in business this would never have been. They're just using that label to try and make people feel less comfortable about discussing the fucked up things they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Just my opinion, just questioning. I don't know. I'm just asking a question. So before we continue, I just want to remind you guys, if you're near Pasadena, Texas, near Houston, Texas, and you're thinking about getting a tattoo, check out Ink by Cast Tattoos at the V-Hole Studio. Okay, so we're looking at the Microsoft on Android scenarios presentation put together by Google from 2017. And it says Microsoft is betting heavily on Android and iOS after sunsetting Windows Mobile. And it says after missing mobile boat, Microsoft is now trying to sneak onto iOS and Android like a stealthy submarine. When there are iOS or Android roadblocks, Belfor, MS Mobile EVP, says, and I think MS means Microsoft here too, Microsoft will do the best we can to work around them. We're going to try and build the best experience for the customers that have chosen that platform. And then it says Android, current position and recent moves. The depreciated Windows Mobile. Is that what it says? Or deprecated? I don't know. Deprecated Windows Mobile. Released Microsoft Launcher, MS Launcher, unified user experience, linked seamlessly with PC. 2 million active installs. Betting on Cortana and Bing. Edge browser on Android. Integrated Cortana into Skype. Office keyboard plan. Engaging operating equipment manufacturers for preloads of Swift and Office. About 1.7 billion active installs of MS apps. 75% preloads for Drive, Office, Skype, and 25% user downloads for Office, Skype, Outlook, LinkedIn. potential leverage, and then it's redacted. It says app preloads bundle, and then it's redacted per app activation for Swift, Office, Skype, etc. Revenue share agreement buyout, Bing monetization, redacted of Google. Patents, reduction of redacted operating equipment manufacturer royalty based on patent lawsuit settlement. Jumpstart redacted operating equipment manufacturer bounty for preloads and defaults on Windows PCs can be bundled with phones, only relevant for Lenovo and Asus. I don't know if I'm saying these right. And again, these are they're saying this is our potential leverage over Microsoft in regards to the potential usage of Android and iOS after sunsetting Windows. So, interesting. And then it says launchers. Installing MSL completely changes user experience. And it shows before A1. Honestly, don't know what the fuck this shit means. And it says after DHS. And then it says search. Widget on all home screens. Being default but user configurable. Doesn't respect default browser or renders custom disambiguation screen. Icons. Microsoft folder with links to quickly download apps. All non-hot seat icons removed or replaced. Microsoft apps placed in the hot seat if already installed. -1 screen. Replaced with Microsoft feed. Other. Notifications to install more Microsoft apps. Launcher asks to be set to default. Almost impossible to work out how to get back to the prior launcher. After you create the widget, Microsoft Launcher can access all data it displays. So yeah, I guess they're, just like it says, they're about how user experience changes on these different devices, perhaps, with these different operating systems. And then next up, it shows an agenda here. And the agenda says app behaviors, and it has item number 1, launcher, and item number 2, other apps. And then it says OOB configuration. I think that means out of the box configuration, as in how are the default settings out of the box. And it shows number 3, search and assistant, number 4, other apps. And out of the box configuration is highlighted under with a yellow box around it, along with items number 3 and 4 for search and assistant, as well as other apps. And then it says search and assistant, reasonably well protected out of the box. And then it shows MADA, and it says redacted monthly active users, and it says 60% of search revenue secured. And then it shows revenue share agreement. It says redacted and monthly active users, and it says 80% of search revenue secured. And then it says GMS plus /A1, and then it says redacted monthly active users, and it says 100% of search revenue secured. I think GMS is Google Mobile Services. So yeah, so here they're showing where on Search and Assistant, they're typically, most of their devices, they have pretty strong search revenue as it relates here. Even with, even if the default browser is set to Bing, what their agreements get them from Android, I think is what they're showing here. And I do believe that the government could potentially argue this to prove monopolization, potentially. And then it says revenue share agreement, Europe, Bing, Edge, Skype, Cortana, no active gesture or voice in the folder. And then it says our rest of the world, I think, no Bing on device, Edge set to Google. Okay. This next slide is redacted, but it says MADA device with full Microsoft buyout with launcher browser defaults, but then it's redacted, so I don't know what they're going to say about that. This next one is similar, but also redacted. It says MADA device with full Microsoft experience with launcher defaults and SAPs. I don't know what the fuck SAPs means. Let's Google that. The fuck is that? Oh, this didn't help me. Application performance standard. I don't know. He gives a shit. Okay. And then next up, of course, this is redacted, but it says Bing key risks, and the whole fucking thing is redacted. And then next up, you got it, redacted, bitches. It says Samsung, but the whole fucking thing is redacted. So what wasn't redacted that I took from this was basically mainly on this, where they're showing the amount of their revenue, their search revenue secured, based on how the agreement secured revenue with them, even if Bing was included as a search engine on these devices, you know. That kind of shows, in my opinion, how these agreements are used to make sure that Google maintains their presence. You know what I'm saying? And they had previously tried to argue that that wasn't the case, but I believe that this document kind of shows it is. So yeah, fucking next up, what I think I'm going to do is just a quick little break, and then we're going to come back, we're going to keep going through shit, yeah, I'm gonna be back in just 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. My bad. I was making my I was making my coffee and I fucking totally forgot. I was like running up in here. I was like, oh shit, this thing is ending. This thing is ending. Oh my god, sorry. I fucking totally forgot about that. Um, Fuck it. Let me shut my door real quick. So, and in case anyone's ever wondering why I have this like box here, for some reason I don't like to lock my door. I will lock my door if I feel like I need to lock my fucking door, but I don't just lock my door if I don't have to because I'm deaf, hard of hearing. I don't always hear my people in the house, and so I would rather them just be able to come on in. And so fucking yeah, but like then if I just shut the door though, for some reason I don't know what the fuck it is, and I feel crazy, but like if I just shut the door, the airflow in the house will kind of cause the door to open and shut on its own somehow, I guess. I think that's what it is because I noticed it happens when my AC unit turns on and off. And fucking so that shit will be happening and it'll like the door will be opening and shutting on its own and it like kind of freaks me out when that happens. And so I'll be like leaving my door, so when I shut my door I'll put this box in front of it so that way the door doesn't open, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm weird, but whatever. So and then if I forget to do that and you ever hear like a random like my door just like is shutting on its like sometimes in the video that will happen, I'm like ugh dude. Yeah, or just in general, like, I don't know. But if you ever notice that, that's what that is. So yeah, okay. So anyway, fucking sorry I forgot about you guys. I was getting my coffee, muy importante. I was like, okay, let me take a minute to center myself. So you know. But anyway, so we got through 4 presentations so far. Um, and we're just gonna see how many more we can get through. So let's share my screen here. So next up here, we've got exhibit number UPX01. Am I muted? Okay, I'm not muted. That would suck ass. That does suck ass when I do that. I'm like, fuck. So, shit. Where was I? Alright, my bad. So first up, we've got exhibit number UPX0134. We have an email from Tim Carter of Google. What the fuck? Of Google. To Chris Barton of Google regarding platforms. And this seems to be from April 28th, 2011. And then it looks like it was uploaded September 27th, 2023. Okay, so it's from Tim Carter. It is to Chris Barton. We've got Ann Lawrenson, Steve Chang, John Lagerling, and Nick Solaro, and Hugo Barra, all of Google are CC'd. The subject is regarding platforms. This first section here is redacted, and that seems to be a redacted message from 12:20 p.m. from Tim Carter to Chris Barton with all these other bitches CC'd. And before that, it seems that Chris Barton had said, yeah, what it seems to be a response to is Chris Barton had said, Tim, America Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T were all examples of large carriers that wanted to ship without Google and did. AT&T shipped Yahoo on Android phones. Verizon shipped Bing. America Mobile shipped Yahoo. We need to incentivize carriers to ship Google by using the same approach we at Google have used for many years. We will pay you revenue share in return for exclusive default placement. This contract is an exchange. So again, this is another quote here where they admit that the default placement is in relation to exclusivity. And in my opinion, some of their documentation previously, if I understood that correctly, they were kind of trying to argue that because there was no exclusivity, they were not a monopoly. But now, here they are, again, saying the revenue share is for exclusive default placement. So I feel like some of what they say seems to be at odds, you know, like they can be a bit hypocritical in my opinion, but perhaps I'm wrong for thinking that. Who knows? And then it says, We have used this type of exchange in syndication deals, such as AOL or Ask Jeeves, toolbar deals, such as Real Networks or Adobe, PCOEM deals, don't know what the fuck that is. Oh, PC operating equipment manufacturer, I think. Okay. And such as Dell or Sony, and numerous mobile deals for many years. Without the exclusivity, we are not quote unquote getting anything. Without an exclusive search deal, a large carrier can and will ship alternatives to Google, as seen with Verizon, AT&T, and America Mobile. Android is by far the greatest opportunity for search monetization in mobile over the next years and is very strategic to Google. You can bet that Microsoft and Yahoo will enter contracts for search on Android through carrier deals if we do not. Chris. And then before that, and then again, this is the timeline here, 2011 is the year we're in. Whew, what a year. I was in 11th grade. Between 11th grade and my senior year of high school, depending, either end of 11th grade or beginning of senior year. Yeah, what a year. Anyway, before that, Chris had said Tim. Wait, is this the same thing? Oh, no, I just read this one. Okay, before that, Tim had said, Chris, Steve, do we really need exclusivity terms? The current non-US terms give pretty much the same effect. Operating equipment manufacturers pre-install default under MADA. Plus, carrier revenue share incentive with non-duplication plus volume targets, such as search deals, equal many hurdles for a carrier seeking to change the default. Holy fuck. So right here, in my opinion, they literally just say that these agreements are hurdles for someone to change the default setting after saying that the default setting gives them exclusive priority, in my opinion, basically is what they're basically saying in this whole fucking email chain. Oh shit. So yeah, I feel like this is definitely relevant in terms of arguing that the monopolization was intentional, potentially, in my opinion. Just me? Just me? Yeah. Anyway, this is the perfect email chain to have my coffee for. I think I'm here. It says they need more money from the alternative search and either persuade the operating equipment manufacturer to seek and get from us an exception to their MADA to allow pre-installation of another search provider with pre-install of other Google mobile services, or ship a device with no Google mobile service pre-installed at all. MADA requirements. So they're already saying because they would have to persuade an operating equipment manufacturer to seek and get from us an exception to their MADA, that is itself leverage against them where they can get money, extract value. So they're saying we got enough leverage. Do we really need to? We've already got enough leverage. Do we really have to say it? And then they were basically like, yeah, no, we need to say this shit to make sure we have exclusivity because of how much it's valuable to us. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, in a nutshell. Okay. And then it says, in practice, shipping without all Google mobile services doesn't happen except in edge cases, like previously America Mobile. All developed markets have users who expect and demand Google mobile services. We rarely agree to non-default for search, provided also provided also full Google mobile services pre-installation. For example, Russia and Korea, where there are market-leading or strategic local alternatives. And in China, of course, we still don't pre-install GMS, and so Baidu, is that how you say that? I apologize, has free reign. These exceptional territories will retain their exception-inducing contexts. So exclusivity there won't work. Elsewhere, the above matrix makes alternative pre-installed search default unlikely in the medium term. Avoiding actual exclusivity requirements enables us to keep flexible revenue share rates and should, in theory, therefore reduce TAC. Thoughts? TC. I don't know what TAC means here. Traffic acquisition costs? That sounds right. So yeah, fucking, let's see. So my opinion is, they're basically saying, like, this is going to lock us into a set amount of paying them versus right now we have more flexibility with what we have to pay, is basically what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then this next part is redacted, and so is this next part. And so before all of that, what we don't have that's not redacted, from Chris Barton says, and non-duplication of services is the same as exclusivity as long as it applies across all devices or all Android devices. All the deals we do in the United States are both revenue share tiered, except Verizon due to strategic reasons, and exclusive across all Android devices at a minimum. The one exception is AT&T, and that is because they are literally bound by a Yahoo deal that prevents them from signing exclusivity. So we know with 100% certainty, due to contractual terms, that all Android phones on T-Mobile will come with Google as the only search engine out of the box. All Android phones on Verizon will come with Google as the only search engine out of the box. All Android phones on Sprint will come with Google as the only search engine out of the box. Who would have thought? Anyway, and then it says, I think this approach is really important. Otherwise, Bing or Yahoo can come and steal away our Android search distribution at any time, thus removing the value of entering into contracts with them. Our philosophy is that we are paying revenue share in return for exclusivity. Chris. And before that, Ann Lawrenson had written, God damn, these bitches are writing emails at 1 and 2 in the fucking morning? Jesus fucking Christ. Hi, Chris. Yes, it has been the intent from the beginning, especially since GMA is in maintenance mode. The deal is not exclusive, but I think GMA, is that Google mobile apps? I don't know. And then it says the deal is not exclusive, but for the devices covered by the deal, we are asking for home screen placement and no other search client on the device. No duplication of services. Are you signing exclusive deals in the United States? In Europe, you know what? I forgot about time differences. These could also be a matter of time differences. Okay, sorry. In Europe, deals are usually non-exclusive. The tiered revenue share being the incentive to ship as many devices as possible with Google Search. Only the VF contract is exclusive, but they have flat revenue share. I also tend to think that the best way to grow number of devices with our services and usage is co-marketing that partners value a lot, as you know. The contract is under review by John and Tim currently, and this is redacted here. So yeah, so here you can see the whole email chain, basically. What's not redacted that I can kind of make out, they are debating whether or not the exclusivity is important to get in writing, and they were basically saying the agreements already do that for all intents and purposes. You know what I'm saying? And then they were saying, yeah, we should confirm it because we're gonna have more opportunity for monetization if we do. It basically seems to be where they're getting at, in my opinion. If I'm understanding this correctly. And again, I'm not an attorney. I'm just, I do a little bit of marketing. So, yeah. So next up, we've got exhibit number UPX0137. And this is a Google document for EMG Deal Review Notes. And this is from June 4th, 2007. And it does say that it is updated. It seems to have been uploaded on October 30th, 2023. So, let's see. So it's labeled EMG June 4th, 2007 here, but this first part is redacted, so it's part of the second part here. But then it says item number 2, Apple Internet Explorer browser, and it's got Jeff Shardell in quotation marks. And then it says attendees, Sergey Brin, Omid Kordestani, Joan Brady, Giselle Hiscock, Karen Say, Jim Maraca, Sandy Kuo, Michael Z, Ramsey Hornsani, Julia Pekarovic, Kent Walker, Jeff Shardell, Sundar Pichai, Bill Code, and Strand, Susan Uojikiki, Sonam Thunden. I'm sorry, I think I said all their names wrong. I am relatively certain that these are all people from Google, if I'm not mistaken. And then it says request. Option number 1, Google is not the default. Sales recommendation. No revenue share to Apple. Option number 2, Google is the default. Sales recommendation. Term of 2 to 3 years. If Google is the default search provider, we share 10 to 20% of net revenue after 10% operating costs. Cap revenue to Apple at $100 million per year. Apple must agree to support Google in Chrome development. Open in payment for this support, we share with Apple 2 to 5% of net revenue after 10% of operating costs for Chrome search box results. Discussions. Our current deal terms are following: Google default and exclusive search provider and Safari browser. 50% net revenue share after 10% deductions for queries stemming from the Apple browser Chrome. Term through January 2008. And I do think this is from 2007 here. And it says Apple wants current deal terms to apply to their new Safari operating system for PCs. Google will be one of the 2 possible choices for search provider, not the default. However, they want the same financial terms as their current agreement. We are the default. Okay, so they're saying for Safari, they want the same amount of money for default placement, but they don't want to give the default placement. And so that's where Google's like, nah, that's the whole fucking reason we're paying you. Okay. And then it says, the users will choose search provider prior to using browser. Choices are google.com or Safari. The current agreement is not tied to a specific operating system, but requires Google to be the default search provider to qualify for revenue share. One of the key issues is that Apple is being uncooperative with our efforts on Chrome utilizing their open source platform. Given current deal terms, we would be paying them a significant amount of money. Revenue share seems rich for a non-default and non-exclusive deal. How much difference does a default status make? Typically, 75% take rate. Defaults have strong impact. How much will they make with the current deal terms? Partner payment for 3-year deal is worth $2.8 billion. We are not going to pay for a non-default deal. We want to see performance, user base. If they insist on non-default, then no revenue share. Otherwise, we can deal with them under the current terms until agreement expires in 6 months. We will see how it runs. Let's look at the uptake and evaluate once we have more data. If they can prove they are bringing new incremental users to Google, then we are willing to pay Apple for them, but not willing to pay for users that would come to google.com anyway. Our concern is that come January, when the deal term ends, Apple might not let go of 50% revenue share. Ever bigger concern is that it would mean delay in cooperating with us on browser. They could hold back for another 6 months. Let's not tie this deal with the Chrome development. These should not be linked. Go back to Apple with 2 options: no default, no revenue share, or keep the existing deal terms until January. We will see the performance, and if they are bringing incremental users, we will pay them. Outcome: deal not approved, The deal team go back to Apple with two options. One, no default, no revenue share, or keep the existing deal terms until January. Google is to pay for incremental users, but not for users who come to google.com directly. Okie dokie. So this is some more internal documentation regarding the back and forth on how they should negotiate this deal with Apple, and where they come to the conclusion that they're going to basically say, if you don't give us a default on that exclusivity, then we're not going to share revenue with you. And that's what they ended up going to the table with. And at the end of the day, they did get that deal. And so yeah, fucking next up, we're gonna check out exhibit number UPX0140. And this is an email from Jamie Rosenberg of Google to Jim Kolotouros of Google regarding TAC meeting. And I think this is target acquisition costs, but I'm not entirely sure. That could be something else. And it's from August 27, 2018. And it has an attached Google presentation on Android agreements, the summary of the current MADA and RSA, and that is from May 10th, 2018. So the email is from August 2018, and the attached presentation in here is from May of that year. And so then here, it seems to have been uploaded November 10th, 2023. So we have our message here from Jamie Rosenberg of Google, August 27, 2018, to Jim Kolotouros. CC'd, we also have Kristen Renke, I don't know, Christian Kramer and Megan Johnson. All of these people are Google employees. Those are the people CC'd. And the subject is regarding or replying to TAC meeting, and I'm assuming that TAC means target acquisition cost, but I'm not entirely sure. And it says, thanks all. I promise it wasn't a strategy to take a few months to schedule the meeting. And it has a smiley face, and it says sorry about that. Please do let us know if this comes up again and how we can help. In the meantime, as Jim says, we're working on proposed updates to our various commercial structures in the wake of EC and developments with Samsung, and will of course continue to partner closely with you on that. From Jamie. So, what the fuck is EC? No, that didn't help. Yep, no fucking clue. Anyway, so, and then on Sunday, August 26, 2018, or why am I saying that again? Or whatever. Fucking before that, Jim had said, thanks for the note. To answer Christian's question, I have not discussed anything with Philipp since I briefed him on the Samsung Chrome and Hot Seat US Note 9 opportunity. But allow me to offer a glimpse of things to come. I am working on a master plan recommendation for Samsung that will endeavor to optimize for all of MADA expiration at redacted, and RSA expiration redacted, ACC redacted, Europe, Chrome and Hot Seat, Bixby, and S browser defaults. Our payment to Samsung exceeded redacted last month, and it is my goal to apply regimented discipline to TAC management in connection with Samsung, while being sensitive to the partnership dynamic at the same time. I'm looking forward to seeing where this lands. Thanks. And then before that, Kristen had said, we've been trying to get this on calendar for a few months now. I guess if you wait long enough, things have a way of working themselves out. In all seriousness, we will continue to bring you these types of things to come up in the future in an effort to keep everyone on the same page. Kristen. And then before that, Kristen had said, hi Jamie, I think I can cancel this and give ourselves 60 minutes back tomorrow. Here's some context. This meeting was originally set up as Philipp was interested in understanding opportunities across many areas that drive net revenue, including TAC. I think they mean target acquisition costs. And thus, we wanted to share with you some of the analysis that was underway. However, after the analysis, they defaulted to other areas to go deep. So no need to discuss further now from my perspective. Also, we worked with Paul and Jim at the end of June to pull a comparison of MADA and RSA together to support the conversation. Jim, did you get a chance to discuss this with Philipp at the time? Or is there anything else worth sharing from recent discussions you may have had with Philipp around MADA and RSA? Have a nice rest of your weekend all. And before that, Jamie had said, "Hi guys, I see that we have a 1 hour meeting, TAC meeting with Kirsten on the calendar for Monday. Do you know what this is about? I haven't seen any prep for it." Okie dokie. And then now we have the attached presentation that was discussed. So that email chain was from August 2018, and the attached presentation here is of Android agreements, and it is from May 2018. So going back and forth, they had a meeting scheduled to discuss this presentation, and then they were basically saying the whole fucking point of this was to discuss the optimization of the expiration of their agreements, as well as looking at target acquisition costs, I believe, is potentially what they were going to discuss in the meeting that they decided not to have, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, and it seems now that it looks like it's about upholding and revenue from these agreements, in my opinion. But let's look at it. So it's Android agreements, and it says summary of current MADA plus RSA, and it says key partner RSA overview. So it's partly redacted, but it shows a list of carrier partners, and it says Bell Mobile I can't read, but I think it says Bell Mobile TV, Australia, AU, I don't know, Optus, America Mobile, Telstra, T-Mobile International, AT&T, US Cellular, Rogers Group, Telus Group. I think this says Orange SA if it's not cut off. Otherwise, I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to say. Hutchinson Telecom, TIM, Xfinity Mobile. Don't know what the fuck this says. I think it says I don't know how to pronounce that. BOUVGUES Telecom, Bugis. Who knows? That's probably wrong. And this, I think it says Changhua Telecom. I can't pronounce that either. This says Sprint Group, T-Mobile United States Group, Verizon Wireless, and Vodafone Group. And then it shows the top 5 operating equipment manufacturers, and it shows Samsung, a company called Huawei, I've never heard of them before, LGE, Lenovo, and Sony. And then it shows paid access points, and it's for carriers. It shows GSA. I think it stands for Google Services App, but I'm not entirely sure. Then it says Chrome if hot seat in default, S browser if hot seat in default on Samsung devices, -1 feed screen search engine result page if default, for example Samsung, the assistant search engine result page, messages if hot seat in default, as well as carrier portal site if default homepage with Google search box. And for operating equipment manufacturers, we've got GSA Chrome if hot seat in default, 1P browser if applicable with search set to Google, -1 feed screen search engine result page at the default, for example Samsung, the assistant search engine result page, and messages is hot seat and default is what it says. And then it shows a slide. It says current MADA terms, but subject to change in EEA region. So is this Europe? I don't know. Europe, Middle East, Europe, Africa. I don't know. I don't know what they mean by EEA region. Huh. Oh, European Economic Area. Okay, whatever. Fucking. It says search. Search app preloaded. Chrome preloaded and set to Google. Search widget placed on DHS and set to Google. Assistant. Google set as default assistant app. Long press on home button triggers the assistant app. Hot word enabled and can't be interfered with. Home button animation. 2 OOBE setup screens. I think this is out of the box experience setup screens, if I'm not mistaken. And then security. Quarterly updates for any new SKU with 100,000 plus activations for 2 years since launch, starting in 2018. Then we have user experience or preload. So we've got 11 apps, 11 Google mobile services. Apps are mandatory. Search, Chrome, YouTube, Maps, Play Store, Gmail, Duo, Photos, Drive, Play Movies, Play Music. 5 of those can be uninstalled by the user. And the Google folder on DHS, the Play icon on DHS. And then it says current RSA terms, but subject to change to reflect new regulatory environment. So for search, we have device exclusivity, DHS in Europe. I honestly don't know if what TR and KR stand for. Is this Turkey? Yep, TR is country. Is KR Kyrgyzstan? Oh, Korea. Way off. Republic of Korea. So Turkey and the Republic of Korea. Placement only in Russia. Default on all access points, Chrome and Hotseat and default, and a -1 screen reserved to Google. Non-alternative services is fallback. Then we have the assistant. Operating equipment manufacturer assistance, okay. No 3P or carrier assistance on DHS and -1 screens with active hot rods out of box with hot rod buttons or gestures enabled out of the box. Security. New devices must be updated quarterly for 2 years after launch. No, only new devices with partner revenue share client ID. User experience. Optional apps. Gmail, calendar, photo, keyboard set as default. Android Messenger and Hotseat and default. Duo and DHS. No. Operating equipment manufacturers must opt into all apps to get user experience bonus. We will share revenue from Android Messenger. Ooh, or RCS. Okay, and it says net advertising revenue share. Operating equipment manufacturer redacted plus redacted bonus for user experience, and then carrier redacted of revenue. Okay. So whether you're an OEM or you're a carrier, you have a different revenue share agreement apparently. And this last slide here shows a screenshot of the current MADA and RSA requirements subject to change, which is so funny because before they were trying to say that their agreements didn't lock anybody into exclusivity on the defaults, but they're literally showing their own documentation. That's a lie in my opinion. So it shows Microsoft Edge and Hotseat search provider Bing for Cortana, Bing, and the Bing widget on DHS. But it also shows a Google quick search box, Google Apps, Play Store, and the assistant long press. And then it shows the Play Store and a collection of apps. And that's what's required from the MADA. And then the RSA requires Chrome in the Hotseat and default, no 3P search, DHS exclusivity in the European area, and no 3P assistant on DHS is what they're saying there. So yeah, so here they're just going into, you know, what is the revenue that they would be getting from these agreements and their target acquisition costs in relation to upholding it. You know what I'm saying? So how much money are they willing to pay is kind of what they are doing the math on there, in my opinion. Let me count real quick how many of these that I've gone through today. So today we went through 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think that was number 6. Oh no, that was at 7. 1, 2, 3. Why am I being so weird? 4, 5, 6. Why can't I count? That was totally 7. Okay. Looks like we'll do one more today, and then I'm gonna see if I can start banging them out. See if I can go from 8 to 10. If I can sit through them a little bit longer, but it's hard for me to process too much at once. Anyway, let's do one more. So here we have exhibit number UPX0140. And this is an email from Jamie Rosenberg of Google to Jim Kolotouros. Oh wait, I just read this one. My bad. Okay. Not, I lied, not this one. Okay, we're doing this one. Exhibit number UPX0141. And this is an email from John Yoo of Google to Ben Friedenson? I don't know if I'm saying this right. Ben Friedenson of Google regarding, the fuck am I saying? Replying to or regarding Monday, June 18th, Is this June 2018 or June 18th? Oh, I think it's both. Request from Philipp, June 18th, 2018. September 27th, 2023 is when it's uploaded. So yeah, we're going to check out this email real quick from John Yoo to Ben Friedenson. And before we do, I just want to remind you guys, if you're thinking about getting a tattoo near Houston, Texas, Pasadena, Texas, guess what? Yes, you guessed it. Go get a tattoo from Ink by Cass at the V-Hole Studio. Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, so email. So John had emailed Ben, and he also had some other people CC'd. He had Paul Janai, Mike Rozak, Jim Kolotouros, Yuki Richardson, Ira Kaitana, and Anna Kardashiva. I am so sorry. I think I said all that wrong. I am so sorry, guys. All of these people are from Google. And the subject is Monday, June 18th, request from Philipp. And it says, "Hi Jim and Paul, the following documents have been updated for your review. 1. Overview of MADA/RSA terms." And it has a document linked here. And 2. Screenshots of the MADA/RSA devices. And it's got some slides linked here. And then it says, "If okay in its current form, Jim, could you kindly send to Philipp ahead of the meeting scheduled for 3:15 p.m. Thank you, and happy to address any further concerns or feedback. Regards, John Yoo." And then before that, Ben had said, "Hi all, this arose out of a separate conversation with Philipp, where he had asked an ex-finance team to look at major areas of economic opportunity. After discussing our search-related partnerships, both Android and non-Android, he asked if we could produce the table here. He alluded to 2 reasons for wanting this information: to have a cheat sheet of what we currently get with MADA or RSA to better inform his negotiations with non-carrier or non-operating equipment manufacturer partners, for example, parties who also have their own assistant, as well to understand among major Android partners what we currently get and when the next conversations might take place. My read from the conversation is that the above is information that Philipp has in pieces, but not in a centralized cheat sheet. As understanding how our various products or services are treated in our Android partnerships would be applicable across a variety of contexts, the request for a cheat sheet that he could have as reference. Please let me know if the above context helps. Thanks, Ben." And then before that, John Yoo had wrote, "Hi Paul, thanks for your comments," adding Ben and Mike who can help provide more context on the request. And before that, Paul had wrote to tagging Jim Kolotouros, "Hey John, I just made some edits in the doc. Can you remind me what the context for this request is? I mentioned it to Jamie, and I recall you mentioning that it was for a conversation with Redacted, and he wanted more context before sharing. Would also like to understand specifically why we need to share all of the partner detail here. Thanks, Paul." And then before that, John had written, "Hi Paul, if you may recall," that's funny, "Philipp had requested we put together a couple data points for him via MADA and RSA, pre-EC state." I have no clue what the fuck EC means here. And then it says, Anna has, I don't know if it's Anna or Anna, sorry. Anna has helped us put together this doc outlining the requirements, as well as this slide with screenshots of risk or requirements. Before we ask Jim to send to Philipp, I want to make sure you had a chance to review as requested. The meeting with Philipp is scheduled for June 18th at 3:30 p.m., so we will likely send to Jim sometime Monday morning with your okay. Thanks, and please let us know if you have any questions or comments. Regards, John. And then it seems okay. I was like, is this redacted? Or no, it's not redacted. I just saw the word redacted. for something else. But now we got a presentation here, and it's on Android agreements. Oh, okay. This seems to be that same presentation for the summary of the current MADA and RSA from May 2018 that we just went over in the last exhibit. This is that exact same presentation. I'm double checking. Okay. It's got five of the sides here from that Android presentation. So we see here the side that says Android agreement summary of the current MADA RSA, and then it shows the key partner RSA overview again, where I had read off the carriers and the OEMs, and then it shows the MADA terms, where I had read about search assistant security and user experience and preload. We had discussed that as it relates to MADA as well as RSA. So we did that in the last exhibit, as well as the screenshot of the current MADA and RSA requirements. Those we went over that in the last exhibit as well. All of that is the exact same slides. But then it shows us something else that we haven't looked at yet. It says overview. Table below is intended to serve as a reference, documenting the treatment of various components under MADA, as well as any additional coverage secured by RSA. This represents the current state of agreements as of May 10, 2018, and should be updated with future changes as they are formalized. And so then it shows the component, and it shows the difference between MADA and the Revenue Share Agreement 2.0. And so they have a Revenue Share Agreement 2.0 and 3.0. The 2.0 refers to their 2016 requirements, and the 3.0 refers to their 2019 requirements. And in that wording, I believe they're trying to lock them into further exclusivity on other additional devices, additional browsers, as well as through their voice assistant as well. And so so the component, it says Chrome on device. Can it be deleted by the user under the MADA and RSA? No. What is the default search engine under both agreements? Google. And what is the icon of placement? For MADA, at minimum, placed in Google folder on the default home screen, which is what DHS stands for. Okay, DHS means default home screen. We've seen this a lot here. I didn't know that. All right. And then for RSA, it means placed directly in the hot seat and set as a default browser. Waived for the first-party operating equipment manufacturers' browsers, and required for Chrome to be placed on the default home screen outside the folder instead. Okie dokie. And then in relation to the Google services applications on the device, so for under the MADA and the RSA 2.0, the app cannot be deleted by the user. Under the MADA, for the icon placement, at a minimum, it's placed in the Google app folder on home screen. And for the RSA, it's at minimum placed in Google app folder on the home screen, and on operating equipment manufacturers -1 screen if Google Feed is not implemented on the -1. And then for the widget placement, for the rest of the row on the default home screen, for Russia, the search widget, but user choice defines if it is going to be set to Google or alternative search. Under the MADA, but under the RSA, for that, the widget placement is, okay, it's the same for MADA and RSA. And then the widget can be removed by the user under the MADA and the RSA for Google service applications on the device as well. For third-party browsers, under the MADA, there's no restrictions for the default search engine, but under the revenue share agreement, it has to be Google. Under the default, under the MADA, there's no restrictions for icon placement, but under the RSA for icon placement, there's no preloads in the rest of the row. There's no default home screen placement in Europe, Korea, or Turkey, and there's no restrictions in Russia. And then for the third-party search app, it shows default search engine, no restrictions under the MADA, but it is limited to Google under the RSA. For icon placement, no restrictions under MADA, but for RSA, there's no preloads in the rest of the world, no default home screen placement in Europe, Korea, or Turkey, and no restrictions in Russia. For the Google Assistant app, the placement for under the MADA, it's got to be a long press on the home button, as well as for the RSA. It must be set as the default under the MADA and the RSA. The hot word enabled out of the box, yes, if hardware supports under the MADA and RSA, plus under the RSA, you have exclusivity for out of the box enablement of hot word. And then it says which invocation methods are enabled out of the box experience. Under the MADA, it says long press plus Google Hot Word. Under the RSA, exclusivity for out of the box enablement of any gestures. And then in relation to exclusivity provisions, under the MADA, it says no, but under the RSA, the default home screen and the out of the box exclusivity for Hot Word and gesture. And then for the third-party assistant app, last section here, for placement, under the MADA, there's no restrictions, but under the RSA, you cannot have placement on the default home screen. You cannot have, a third-party assistant app cannot be set as the default under the MADA or RSA. A third-party assistant app may be hot or activated out of the box experience under the MADA, but not under the RSA. And you can have a third-party assistant on the -1 screen for the MADA, not for the MADA, but under the RSA. It's optional, but the partner tab allowed for select partners. Okay, so what we got out of this presentation is some of the differences between the MADA and the RSA, in relation to what are the restrictions when you get locked into these agreements, you know what I'm saying? So we got that out of this, as well as email conversation here about, these risks and the requirements, and about how this was put together in relation to having a cheat sheet to better inform the negotiations. So they're literally saying this is what we're going to use in our negotiations to help us negotiate in this email right here. So fucking yeah. So now let's just kind of sum up what we've discussed today. We got through 8 documents. That's a good bit here. Fucking so first off, we started off with the email from Jim Shardell to Sundar Pichai of Google about the Apple EMG Deal review from 2007 with an attached Google presentation on the Apple Search Partnership from 2007. And yeah, and this is just before the deal review, where they were going over how much money and how much market presence that they were generating from the Apple partnership. And they were basically saying, what are our current deal terms and what does Apple want? So Apple wanted them to pay for a non-exclusive agreement to be an option on Safari. And they were basically like, that's not what our revenue agreement's for. We have the revenue agreement in order to pay for the default status, or what's the fucking point? You know what I'm saying? And so that's the main point of a lot of these documents, that, the whole fucking, all of these exhibits basically. But so first we basically looked at a presentation they had put together where they went over the revenue from that and how that process was tied into their monetization. And then we went over a different email from Tom Oliveri of Google to Sundar Pichai of Google regarding Nexus launcher without the quick search box. And so this was all about the importance of the quick search box and how basically there had been changes at the timing of this email chain regarding the search widget for it. So there is discussion about, should they be changing it, or should they use it, like, how should they change it, and not making changes based on what they like, but based on what was the data showing to generate them more money. And they were also saying that they didn't want other people to be launching their devices without the quick search box, because then other people are gonna think they can ask for that too. And then and this is back from 2007, mind you. And so, oh no, 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 wait. The first thing was from 2007. This is from 2016. Okay, 2016. And then after that, we looked at a presentation on the MADA and RSA on the Android commercial agreements. And that really just kind of explained what are these core commercial agreements. So what are the purposes of the MADA and the RSA, and what do you get out of it? And so they were saying that the MADA, it's for their distribution of the apps on Android. And yeah, that's the vehicle for which they drive the consistency of experience. And I think they kind of used that wording right there to control what they do on the device, in my opinion, in order to generate the money. But that's just me. And then it says a revenue share agreement that reinforces the MADA's distribution with additional protections for their revenue generating services, and provides a mechanism to help fund the ecosystem, is what they had said in this. And so it goes into more detail about what they give and get under the MADA and RSA, basically, in regards to the apps and the requirements and the money and all of that. But yeah, it's partly redacted, so we don't get all those details either. But that was kind of the focus of that presentation there. And then after that, we looked at a Google presentation regarding Microsoft on Android scenarios. And this is from 2017, where they were basically putting together different projections about Microsoft's impact on Android, and what would be their potential market share in competition with Microsoft given different scenarios, basically. And they're basically saying that their current revenue share agreement is what is protecting them, in my opinion, is basically kind of what I took from this. And so then after that, we looked at an email from Tim Carter of Google to Chris Barton of Google regarding platforms from April 28, 2011. And in that email, that was a lot to process. But from there, I basically felt like they were saying that in detail, they need the exclusivity on the deals. Otherwise, they don't have a reason to fucking be in the deal. You know what I'm saying? So they're not going to share revenue if they're not getting exclusivity. And that was kind of the end result of that conversation. But basically, the back and forth was about whether or not they needed to even specifically word that they want exclusivity if the end result of the deals as they were already essentially served that purpose, because it could lock them into a set amount of money if they did that. And they were saying, yes, this is what we want to do because it will allow us to make more money. So in my opinion, is basically kind of what happened there. And then we had another Google document that we looked at on EMG deal review notes or whatever. And so this are just the notes from their, going over their deal, where they were going back and forth about this. And in here, they kind of basically reiterate, like we've been saying, that they would, how are they going to negotiate this deal with Apple? And they came to conclusion on the two options: no default, no revenue share, or keep the existing deal terms and then get paid. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they took to Apple. And so, yeah, those meeting notes were them kind of finalizing those conclusions, in my opinion. And then we also looked at an email from Jamie Rosenberg of Google to Jim Kolotouros of Google regarding their target acquisition meeting. And it had an attached Google presentation of Android agreements and a summary of the current MADA and the revenue share agreement in there. And that email, I think by TAC they're talking about target acquisition costs, but basically they were talking about a meeting that they had scheduled. Then they decided not to have the meeting, but they were saying the reason that they were gonna have the meeting was to discuss the expiration of these deals that were happening. And so it was to discuss what is the target amount of money, I believe, that they want to bring in from renewing these deals. I believe that is what was the purpose of that. And so they had gone into the Android agreements, and fucking it went over the terms for MADA and RSA, how the different agreements had different terms that impacted Google in relation to search, assistance, security, and user experience. Um, so yeah, fucking, and then I had previously said that so in the very last thing that we went over, I was like, yeah, these 4 slides are from that last thing we did, but it was the one before, if that makes sense. So, um, yeah, fucking. Then we looked at an email from John Yoo of Google to Ben Friedenson of Google. I don't know if I'm saying that right, regarding some request from Philipp, whoever the fuck that is. Um, and so this is just where they are basically discussing data points for their MADA, and RSA requirements or whatever. Um, and this is the one where, it goes through you know what? No, I was wrong. This is the same. Okay, it is the next one. All right. So this agreement, it repeats that same presentation where I was telling you the difference between the MADA and the RSA. I had just said I thought there was one more in between those, but no, I lied. It was those 2 in a row. I think did I do another presentation after that? I don't know. Okay, my bad. Fucking see, this is why I don't like to do too much at once. Like I was saying, it's hard for me to process. Okay. So the email from John Yoo of Google to Ben Friedenson, it went into the differences between the MADA and the revenue share agreements again. It repeated that same presentation, and it also included the differences between different components, and what the requirements were under the MADA and the RSA for those components. So we could see even further detail, um, how locked in were people into agreements based on each one, in relation to exclusivity and monopolization and monetization. I think that's all relevant. Um, and yeah, was that the last thing we went over? Hold up, did we go over this? No, we did not go over this. Yeah, that was totally the last thing we went over. My bad. I got carried away there. I was thinking, okay, did we go over? I was getting confused because, um, so when we repeated the presentation in the last exhibit that we were actually doing during that exhibit, I said, okay, we just looked at this presentation last exhibit, and that was correct. And then when I was doing my recap and I was looking at this exhibit, I had it in my head that we had covered one more source. And so I was like, no, there's another one in between the two. But now I'm like, no, that was right. It was those 2 in a row. So if I'm not making sense, my bad. But yeah, basically today we went through, let me double check here. We went through 8 sources today. So now we are at 46 total. So we were at 38 before we started. We just did 8 more. Now we've done 46 trial exhibits total. Um, and so yeah, that's why it's all blurring together now, isn't it? And so today we went over the email from Jeff Shardell of Google to Sundar Pichai of Google, the Apple EMG Deal review with the attached Google presentation, the email from the Tom Oliveri of Google to Sundar Pichai of Google about the Nexus launcher with the quick search box. We went over to Google presentation, MADA and RSA, Android commercial agreements. We went over to Google presentation on Microsoft and Android scenarios, the email from Tim Carter of Google to Chris Barton of Google regarding platforms. We looked at the Google document, the EMG Deal review notes, as well as the email from Jamie Rosenberg of Google to Jim Kolotouros of Google regarding target acquisition meeting with the attached Google presentation on the Android agreements, the summary of the current MADA and RSA, as well as the email from John Yoo of Google to Ben Friedenson of Google regarding internal requests there. And so, yeah, so from all of this, we got a bigger look at the differences between the revenue share agreement and the mobile application distribution agreement. And the revenue share agreement is what basically where they were locked into these contracts of like, do what we want or you don't get the money. And then the mobile application distribution agreement doesn't necessarily have the do what we want or you don't get the money part, but it does have, but the do what we want or you don't get the money part requires you to be upholding the MADA. So that's how they function together to uphold the monopoly currently, in my opinion. But the MADA standalone, what it kind of does is basically lock people into somewhat restrictions in terms of some of the default placements for the Google Assistant app, for example, and for like the icons, but it's not necessarily as strict or as exclusive as the RSA, if that makes sense, which is the revenue share agreement. So yeah, so going on, we'll keep covering these trial exhibits, keep pushing that bitch out, and yeah, looking forward to covering the next Monopoly case against them too. We're going to be at this a minute. Yep. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. I hope you're having a good night. I hope you are safe and shit. Is it even night? Oh, it's like 4:30. I don't know what time of day it is. Fuck it. Yeah, I hope you have a good day. Yeah, alrighty. And, okie dokie. Bye. Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at noladeafchild.com/loyalty and check in during live streams to get points for rewards.